My recollections are not those of a young adult. They're of a 7 or 8 year old, really. The congregation was founded by Norwegians, but some Swedes found out about it a little later. And my grandfather, John Holm, and my aunt, Clarice, and my brother and I began to attend services at Brown's Hall in Mill Valley. And I remember Brown's Hall as being very dark, very large. There were folding chairs, and this little congregation sat very close together in this vast dark space.
In 1948, Marin County was identified as a mission field by the ELC, and Pastor George Lofness was called to start work. He wrote that in June of 1948, the original 27 voting members secured a loan of $9,000. With that, they purchased land from San Francisco businessman Fred Sanford.
And then I remember the church being built. This out here was a tennis court that wasn't being used as a tennis court. And so the property was already level. It seemed like a perfectly fine place to build. And my mother fussed at my grandfather, who was a watchmaker, a jeweler, because he was up on the roof too much. And everybody's been talking about the benches. Well, there were little notches cut out in the benches. And being a thrifty Swede, he squirreled away all of that leftover wood and stored it under our house. And my husband and I just got rid of what was now called cellulose debris, only recently.
Saying when Gene and I joined Marin Lutheran, the church building was in the final stages of construction. Not having any carpentry skills myself, I was designated a gopher and a landscape gardener. I did help construct the first pews under the supervision of the Andre brothers. The seats and the backrests were slats 4 inches apart. Creature comfort was not part of the design. But the pews did keep the congregation awake. Now, Pastor Lofness loved to pitch horseshoes. So a pit was built in the flat area just below the church here, right below us, and right below the present-day care center. Pastor was the unofficial champion. Nobody could really beat him.
The church was built over the course of 8 months, groundbreaking having been broken on March 6, 1949, and the dedication taking place on November 13th. The entire structure and furnishings were built largely by members' volunteer labor, totaling more than 5,300 hours. Men, women, and the young people of the church spent long evenings as well as daytime working hours to complete the building. John Holm, father-in-law to Fred Sanford, lived with the family and spent all his time for 9 months building the church. He was credited with 940 of the volunteer hours.
Another construction project was the installation of the bell tower, and also installation of a bell in that tower. The bell itself was from the Northwestern Pacific Railroad in Tiburon, and in the raising of this bell, it was quite a feat, and I think we had some pictures in the history section over in the other building showing the block and tackle that they used. After the installation, the bell rope was pulled for the first time. Instead of a bell tone, there was only a loud clunk. Later it was determined that there was a crack, just like the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia. An electronic chime was later installed in the tower to call people to worship. Another project was John Walter's instrumental in designing and planting a biblical garden on the hillside over here, overlooking the church. We were very proud of that one.
A newspaper article on the church dedication describes the Bible garden this way. It promises to be one of the most attractive features of the Marin Lutheran setting, with flowers, trees, shrubs, vines, and herbs mentioned in the scriptures, Each plant was labeled by name and by scripture reference. The California climate being somewhat like that of Palestine and biblical lands, it is felt that almost all plants mentioned in the scriptures would thrive. Already found in the garden are the fig, palm, and pomegranate trees, rose of Sharon, acacia, oleander, grapevine, lily, cedar, laurel, willow, and oak. The garden began during the groundbreaking exercises, when pots of consecrated earth were distributed among members and friends of the congregation for their choice plantings. As MLC transitions from the first 75 years of existence to the future, let us remember the hard work and dedication it took to establish our church and sustain it to the present day. Browns Hall is now the Buddhist Temple of Marin at 390 Miller Avenue, Mill Valley.